Seth Gurell. I'm director of the Innovation Center at Utah Valley University. I'm co-presenting with Justin Ball, CTO of Open Tapestry. And I'm gonna kind of set the stage and talk a little bit about open education. Then I'm gonna turn it over to Justin. Now on the program, we listed David Wiley. Some of you know David Wiley. Unfortunately, David wasn't able to make it, so you have to settle with David Wiley Light. And you know, as I was telling one of our attendees, I'm sorry, David's better looking than me, but you know, you do what you can. So to talk this, how many of you know about open education or OER? We have quite a few. So I want to set the stage a little bit for those who don't. So the term open education was actually used in the 70s, and that was used to refer to kind of a more radical sort of student-centered, students decide what they learn, and then just kind of like the 60s, it sort of flamed out, and then the term wasn't really used, and it kind of came back in the 2000s, and it started with kind of these ideas rooted in object-oriented programming and learning objects. And it was designed to overcome limitations in copyright law. So we ask, you know, what are those limitations? So one of the challenges, not a challenge, it's both a blessing and a curse in copyright law, is that copyright takes effect the moment something is transfixed in tangible form, and it requires explicit permission to use. This is a problem when we're trying to facilitate sharing. As I say in my opening slides, education is sharing, and when you require explicit permission, it adds a little bit of friction to sharing possibilities. So you might be saying, well, what about fair use? And so those are the 4 provisions of fair use. If you've been through a fair use training or session, or talked to any librarian, you've probably been through this, so I won't spend any time on them. Just to say that those are the fair provisions. The issue with fair use is that there are no set guidelines. There's no set bright lines, as they call it in the legal sense. So the Stanford Library, this is what they say constitutes fair use. Out of curiosity, how many of you at your institution have sort of bright line policy with what's fair and what's not in your courses? No one? We have one. Okay, so we have one that has it. We have sort of a really lukewarm document where we put in some kind of bright lines just so we had something to rely on. But this is what, out of curiosity, this is what Stanford says. How many of you are more liberal than Stanford in what you're actually putting into your courses or telling teachers you can put into your courses? How many of you are more strict? Is there anybody who's more strict than this? Yeah. Stanford has deep pockets, so they want to play it. So they want to play it conservatively. If anyone wants to come sue UVU, have fun with that. Let me know how that works out for you. The other challenge is that fair use is a defense to assert a right. So you have no definitive way to know if fair use is, if it's really fair use, beyond just sort of understandings and what the courts say. There was a recent decision where a series of publishers, Oxford, Cambridge, and I think Sage, sued the Georgia State over fair use. Georgia State came out mostly victorious in that, but there were a lot of technicalities and mitigating factors, and there are some decisions there were parts of the ruling that I'm less than thrilled about with respect. And of course, that decision could be appealed and overturned, and we could have even more, and we'll probably see more fair use in digital and things like that as more and more content goes online, as we get things sharing. We've talked about Canvas Network and all the issues there. So we're going to see more challenges with fair use. And I don't mean to say that to be to scare you about fair use. I don't mean to sound negative about fair use, because I think fair use is good. And actually, the more I've looked into these provisions, the more I like them as a concept. It's just the practical application that I have problems with. So openness is one possible solution, and I want to get a little bit of a definition down when we talk about openness. So David Wiley has what he calls the 4 R's of openness. So the first R is reuse. That's where I take a resource and then I reuse it verbatim. The second is redistribute. That's where I grab something and then I share it with someone else again, just kind of a verbatim sharing. Then there's revising, where I adapt and improve a resource. That's where I take a resource, maybe I translate it into Spanish, maybe I take out something that's not helpful. That's the revising. And then the remix, we're all familiar with the mashups, where you're just taking 2 resources and then bringing them together. So that's what we're talking about in openness. Now, what enables us to have this kind of openness is largely done through licensing, and the vast bulk of it is done through Creative Commons licensing. And when we talk about Creative Commons, there's no single Creative Commons license. Rather, a Creative Commons license is a combination of different clauses that come into play. So here's an example. The top license simply states give attribution. The photos you'll see in this presentation are licensed with an attribution photo because I grabbed them off Flickr. The second license is give attribution, but don't use it commercially. The third license is give attribution, but don't make any alterations or derivatives of the work. And then the third one would be give attribution, don't use commercially, and don't make any derivatives of the work. So you can kind of mix and match these clauses to kind of create a license that you're comfortable with. So when we talk about open educational resources, so there's open education, which is kind of the broad movement, and then there's open educational resources, and there's kind of 3 major components right now. There's open courses, open courseware, and open textbooks. So I want to set the stage. How many have heard of MIT OCW? Oh, we've got a lot here. So MIT OCW, there were a lot of people who were doing open education-like things and putting out OER-like things. But MIT really kind of set the stage when they put out their courseware. And if you've been following the news, they've released Mitx, which is a platform for doing for more interactivity. The challenge with MIT OCW is that it's syllabus, it's a video, it's an audio lecture. There isn't much interactivity, and Mitx seeks to solve that problem. There's also edX, which is a joint initiative with Harvard and MIT to, again, provide this kind of massive open course experience that's interactive. Has anyone heard of Coursera? A couple of you have heard of Coursera. So there's been a lot of attention related to this MIT and edX in terms of putting out courses and having these sort of massively, they call them MOOCs, M-O-O-Cs, massively open online courses, this idea of being able to teach 10,000 people at a time. There was a Stanford course in artificial intelligence that went, I think last year it was, and they're expanding on that even further. So these are examples of where materials being put out and then people are kind of framing an experience around it. And I would be remiss if I'm going to talk about open education and open educational resources if I didn't talk about DS 106. This is Digital Storytelling 106. This is an open course out of the University of Mary Washington, founded by Jim Groom. Jared Stein in his presentation mentioned it. Jim Groom, in the most succinct sense, is the Lady Gaga of open education. He's insane, but he's a good insane. If you're watching this, I love you. I just want to get that down, so if he sees it, that he just knows. There's another option. There's been several moves towards open textbooks. So there's CK12 that does K-12 textbooks. Flat World Knowledge. So Flat World Knowledge's model is they give the textbook is available out in the open and available for free. You can opt to pay for a print version if you'd like. And then they also sell study aids, study guides, flashcards, those kinds of things. So it's sort of give the razor but sell the blades kind of model of market. And then a Khan Academy, I'm not going to ask for a raise of hands because I know pretty much everyone here has heard of Khan Academy. So here's an example where we have videos that are available openly to just sort of lecturettes on a variety of topics. And so we see this over the past decade. So MIT OCW was around 2001, and now to the present, we've seen this growing and burgeoning movement towards openly licensing things and making things freely available so we as educators can share with one another. And that kind of brings me to Josh's keynote where he was talking about the monkeys. And you know, there's been a lot of, we take it for granted that something like Khan Academy exists, but when MIT first started their open courseware movement, it was considered radical. I mean, they had to do a lot of committee work. They had to do a lot of calming people down. It was a big deal, and now we're starting to take it for granted that, oh yeah, people do courses openly sometimes, and it's just an example of the monkeys being set free. So that kind of leaves us up with Open Tapestry, and I'm going to let Justin show how Open Tapestry can help work with Canvas and tie into this rich and ever-growing ecosystem of educational resources. Thank you.
And then one other quick thing to give you a quick plug. There's actually track number 5 that's top secret. That's taught by Neil Legler and Ryan Shaw. It's up on the mountain, and I think it's called "We Will Make You Cry Like a Baby." This is a picture, so the view is worth it, but there's a lot of pain involved in doing that. And so I went again this morning, and it turns out that course is how to really get lost in the wilderness and take the trail to Salt Lake. So big thanks to the Canyon staff and a couple of residents of Park City who said, turn around or you're going to end up on the other side of the mountain. Anyway, the whole point of the mountain biking was to achieve inner peace, because I'm about to do a live demo. And if you've ever spent 24 hours in a car, just did that with my kids, we drove them down to Disneyland, and you've seen Kung Fu Panda like 30 times, Master Shifu teaches that you must achieve inner peace. So the next time you're on Splash Mountain, try it out. My daughter, this is one of my oldest, I have twin daughters, this is one of my oldest cowering here behind me. She's like, I think it helped. I'm like, you just cow. Anyway, so with that said, here we go. We'll give this a shot. So this is Open Tapestry. A little bit of background. We spent a lot of time working with the Center for Open Sustainable Learning at Utah State, did a bunch of open source software, built a bunch of tools with funding from the Mellon Foundation, and then one of our last projects was an NSF project called Folksomatic. The idea was that we would index and provide recommendations on top of OER resources. So then that led to OER Glue, which then led to Open Tapestry, and this is the live site. So inner peace. Here we go. What it lets you do, and I wanted to show you the specific pieces that integrate with Canvas. So a couple of quick things. Everybody loves turtles, so everybody wants to teach a course on turtles. So if you need to teach a course on turtles, when you go to our homepage, you won't see anything on turtles. But if you do a search for turtles, we have a database filled with OER resources that we constantly harvest from all over the world and all over the internet. And so we have a whole bunch of information about turtles. And a bunch of other things too, in case you don't have to teach about turtles, maybe you teach art. I've preloaded all this stuff instead of doing the search because the Wi-Fi is a little hokey. Here's another one on algebra, and as you surf down, it'll keep loading more and more stuff, and you'll find out that there are like thousands and thousands of things about algebra. All of these are open content, freely licensed, and you can reuse them in your courses. Now the question now becomes, and this is what happened when we built Folksomatic, so I found it, what do I do with it? Okay, so here is a page that I found about solving algebra questions. We have this little bookmarklet. It's called Weave because we're Open Tapestry, so Weave is, you know, a really good vocabulary if you're weaving a tapestry instead of, anyway. So when I click that, I get this bookmarklet, and now I can hit clip, and this lets me pick anything I want on the page. So if I don't want the whole page, there's also bookmark. If you want to take the whole page, you can do that. But if you just want pieces of it, like I just want this section here on linear equations. So I'm going to grab that. It goes out and scans for a license and author, and in this case, this page didn't have them. I can change whatever I want, but care right now, so I'm just going to clip that. That's going to take and dump that to my account on Open Tapestry, and there it is. See, I already did it once to make sure it actually worked. Now I can go over to my assignment here in Canvas, and if you notice, we've got a little button here that looks like the Open Tapestry logo. Click on that. Let's see if this really works. Okay, so now it loads up the things that I've been clipping, and I can say insert that. And with luck, there it goes. So now I can take anything from any page off of anywhere on the internet, and I can put it into Canvas. So it makes reusing open content, actually makes reusing any content, just depending on your level of risk tolerance. If you want to, if you're UVU, maybe you won't get sued. Or if you're Pinterest, you know, they don't really care. So now I can take this and I can save it into my course. Just give you a quick, it does the Lti integration. There's a picture of it. It's pretty easy to do that because, it's off the screen. Right here is the Lti configuration. Here's your Canvas-specific XML. Here's your keys. You can just copy and paste that over. So we make it as simple as we possibly can. And if perchance there was someday like an app store or something, I don't know, in Canvas, we would integrate with that too. Not saying that, you know. Anyway, hopefully there's just saying. Yeah, just. Oh, okay. Yeah, I've talked to Devlin. I'm just giving him a bad time because I've talked to him about it before. But that's really exciting. I think that has a lot of potential because Canvas is clearly a great platform. A lot of people are excited to use it. And if there was a really easy way to integrate lots of different tools, then that's really cool. This works like here's YouTube. I'm just going to grab this video right here off YouTube. Now you don't have to worry about the embed codes and figuring out the HTML, so we'll grab that. Here's Khan Academy. See, I've preloaded the bookmarklet because, like I say, the internet's a little slow. Hit the clip here. Oh dear, there we go. I can grab that video. And all of these are just being added to my account. And if you notice, we scan for licenses. So there's the Creative Commons license that is provided by Khan Academy. So one of the things that will then let you do, if you're worried, you can run an audit and say, show me all the licenses from all the stuff we use in all of our courses. So then you'll know what people are doing. You can say, oh, this one doesn't have a license. Maybe we need to replace it with some different content. Or all of this stuff has licenses, so that's really cool. And now we can not worry about getting sued, which is always a really fun thing. So I'll hit clip there. I don't know if you knew this, but Al Jazeera actually has a very large repository of Creative Commons content. So if you're teaching history or current events or politics, this would be a great repository to go to. And again, we're harvesting all of these sources. So it's not just OER in the traditional sense of OpenCourseware from MIT or any of the number of repositories. The OER Commons is actually a really great source if you're looking for OER content. But we're also looking for anything that's Creative Commons licensed because those resources can provide a great learning experience for your students. So I can come in here and I can say, oh, I must have Flash installed. That's great. I have Flash installed. Anyway. I can grab the Flash content and embed that too, but you can see how well that worked. I did grab this Creative Commons licensed Flickr image just so that you can see the license on that as well. So anytime we detect that, you can get that. So let's see here, delete that. Let's see if the video embed works really quick. There we go. Let's grab this. Insert that. So this is using the O-embed. And the rich text editor seems to have this problem again. Had to try it. I just had to do it. There it is. The rich content editor has an issue somewhere in Canvas. I think not necessarily because it has an issue, but because with the slow wireless, if you try to load a video into it, it doesn't have a very good time. Now to give you an idea, so this is just taking the clippings and pieces. So we have Tapestry in the name because what we're letting you do, and if you notice on these little pop-ups, there's actually a remix button. Or mashup, I guess it's mashup. See, everything goes in the blender, comes out as a tapestry. And if you click on that right now, nothing will happen. So if you go out and sign up, just don't expect anything. But here shortly in the next couple of weeks, things will begin to happen. And this is some of the functionality that we're building from OER Glue. So what we found is we created OER Glue, which was this remix tool, which if I have 5 minutes left, maybe I'll show. And it lets you do things to other pages. And then you can assemble it all together into what we originally called a course, but it turns out that lots of people don't call their learning experience courses, so we changed it to Tapestries because that's just completely ambiguous, and now everybody can go, what the heck's a tapestry? And then we are also working on a BLTI tool that will let you embed the tapestries directly into Canvas. So then when your students click through, they'll get something kind of like this. This is a course that was built by the Saylor Foundation. If you want to find really good OER content, Saylor's doing some incredible work, actually. They're building an entire college curriculum. Everything that you need. They have most of their gen ed done, I think, and then they're building computer science and English and everything. So they're doing some really incredible work. So we went out and we do actually a lot of work with Saylor. So we took their courses and made them OER Glue enabled, which will actually be Tapestries here in the future. And then you can come out and see that instead of sending the user to a page, which is what they do, they have a WordPress blog essentially. And then they give you directions. We embed the directions on the page directly. Yeah. Saylor, Saylor.org. It's Saylor. Yeah, Saylor. Yeah, I think that's it. It's Michael Saylor. He's got like a lot of money, and I think he's famous for being the guy who's lost the most money in one day ever. Like he lost $1 billion in one day when the stock market tanked or something. Anyway, but he's doing some really cool OER work. So kudos to those guys. I guess anyway, whatever. And you'll notice like here's the contents of that course. And then the student only needs to click the arrows to navigate, and then whatever. So, questions? Yes? It doesn't insert the attribution into the Canvas page. Oh, sorry. He said he doesn't see where it inserts the attribution into the Canvas page, and it doesn't. But thank you. That's a really good idea. And if Joel's watching, put that in Pivotal Tracker, and we'll do that. Other questions? No questions? Oh, go ahead. That's a really good question. Let me show you something here. This is where we're headed. I didn't enable it. We'll see if this works. This is some of our older code that's going to go under the remix. Okay. Wait. Okay. So this is the original OER Glue. We got this little toolbar down here. And what that lets you do, and this is what some of the tools will add. So you can do things like, I don't want to see this. So we get rid of things. And I want to embed discuss. So I'm going to drop a discuss widget in here. That'll load in discuss eventually. So it'll go right there. See, it's loading. And then so the idea of a tapestry then is that you'll be able to remix these pages and then assemble them together. So now when your students go, there's actually a YouTube page. When we load YouTube pages, we take everything off except for the one video so your students don't go, hey, look, dogs. You know, YouTube is so, our cats. Yeah, it's cats. Look, the cat can play the piano. Oh yeah, history, I got to remember. So this lets you integrate with a number of tools. Like we replaced the collector with the ability to collect, but you know, you can take and drag images off of here, and then I could take and drag images in. And so that's the idea, is that I can modify anything anywhere on the internet. And then when your students see that, it'll look like this. In this case right here, the only thing we embedded is this description, because that's all that's all we needed to embed for the course. But the instructor can kind of do whatever they want. Yeah. Oh, sorry. In how many thanks for the message there. In how many browsers can you use these tools? So that's another great question. So originally we built this as a Chrome extension. And then we went out and we showed it to people and they're like, hey, that is really cool. Can you make it work without being a browser extension. And so then I went home and I just cried because I was like, seriously? So we've spent the last, I don't know how many months, Karen from UAN's in the back, she's like, yeah, plenty of months, rebuilding our infrastructure to support non-browser, so it'll work in any browser. I know. See this right there? Yeah, in Wikipedia, because that's the browser extension right here. Plus, it'll work actually just like the bookmarklet. When I click this Weave button, you'll get this. So now we just load all of our code once you click the bookmarklet. It's not a browser extension at that point. It's just a bookmarklet. And it's a lot easier to do the magic that way. Right here. That's a great question. And the guy who can answer that question is in Logan. So if you want to know, I'll give you a card and you can email us, and it sort of depends. Like, I know. It's like, well, how much you got? No. I know. It really depends on how much strain it'll put on our infrastructure. So this thing, our database is horizontally scalable because we're not actually using a SQL database to handle all of the clippings and all the items and all the OERs. They're not going into SQL. There's another tech that we're using to make that happen. And then on the front end, we actually have some proxy code, some proxy services that do that. Again, horizontally scalable, so we can scale pretty easily, but at the same time, if you're like, hey, we got 50,000 people around the world that want to use this, then we need to have a talk. Basically, that's why I say it sort of depends. Other questions right here? Uh-huh. Right. Yes. It's connected. So right now, is the button connected to an institutional account? Is it connected to my personal account? How does that work? We use BLTI right now, and it just calls back and says, hey, is there an account with this information that matches from Canvas? And then we say, here's your stuff, right? We trust Canvas's user database. And plus, in this specific case, we have a configuration that is the configuration that I showed is per instructor. Where is it? Right here. So you can go in and you can create your own account, grab this stuff, and then put it into your own courses. You don't have to depend on your system administrator. Then we'll also have an account level. So if somebody at a given organization or institution says, hey, we want this, we'll grab this stuff at an account level and then integrate it across your Canvas instance. Other questions? Mm-hmm. Right. Does this have tagging ability? Basically, can we tag things? How do I find things? So the first, you can change the title. It'll grab the title off the page if you can find one. It'll grab titles off images, and it grabs descriptions and everything. So you have that, and then you can search it. Plus, it lets you organize things into what we call tapestries. So the tapestry isn't just a tapestry is just a container. So I can create here's my Math 101 tapestry, and then I can start putting stuff in there. And then if you want, you can organize that into a hierarchy and then serve that out. It basically is a course or a learning module. So that essentially serves as the tags. It could be. We could add that. That would be pretty easy to do. So I can just say copy this over. And then the idea is this will be somewhat social in its experience. So, it looks like Pinterest, because I'm sure that everybody's like, hey, this is Pinterest for education. We decided on the Masonry view just because it's kind of cool and because I think more and more people are becoming familiar with it. But the idea is that I can say, oh, there's 5 other teachers that teach this exact same thing. Let me follow them. Let me reclip their stuff and share that out to the people who follow me. So we'll have that functionality. Now, one quick thing. You can go out and sign up for an account. But if you do, know that over about the next 2 weeks, we might delete your account. This happened to me the other night. I was doing work, and then one of the other engineers wiped out the database. And I was like, why is my stuff not working anymore? I was really mad. And then I realized that he'd wiped the database. So if you want to sign up, feel free, but you might want to wait just a couple of weeks for us to solidify things so that things don't randomly disappear. Yeah. Okay. Uh-huh. Come talk to us and we'll set you up with an account. We'll see if this loads. So I'm hoping I can say this. Karen's in the back, so can I say this? If I'm not supposed to, go like this. So we're integrating this with UEN. So they have a portal. We're going to integrate it with them. You can see that it looks like UEN. It just looks like their page. So that's what an account integration would look like. We try to be as out of your way as possible. So you notice that this doesn't say Open Tapestry on it. It'll just feel like a UEN experience for all the teachers throughout the state of Utah. And then, so that's what it would be like. And then you can do all the reporting and everything inside of here. We'll add more admin features so that you can say, we want to push this stuff to the homepage instead of just everything going to the homepage, because if you're an organization with a lot to lose, or just an organization that wants to maintain sort of public relations, then you probably want to control this a little bit more than like if you're just a Pinterest or just a general account where everything's just flowing through there, right? Does that answer your question? Sorry, I didn't repeat the question. Govin's back here. Anything else? Any other questions? Okay. If you have more questions, you can find either the guys with the OER glue shirts and we can answer your questions. And thank you very much.